Hey guys, today I'm going to talk to you about what makes a decision strategic. Let's jump in. So, there are a few things that make a decision strategic. The first thing is that we're talking about resource commitments. And you can think of resources in the most basic sense that they're company assets. Um, Sometimes resources are what a company might have to acquire. So this might be like raw material. We might even think of resources if we divide it between tangible and intangible. Tangible might be like the computer systems a company has, whereas intangible might be like the knowledge of the company's employees. That's very intangible. We could also think of software, documents that we have in the cloud that are digital. Those are very intangible, but obviously they can be made tangible in some cases. Um, so that is resources. Now, commitments are that a company has to commit in some way to those resources, that they're going to say, okay, we're going to purchase those resources, we're going to use those resources in some way. Now, one of the things with these resource commitments is that they're irreversible or very difficult to reverse. So a very irreversible or relatively difficult to reverse resource commitment might be that you purchase a fleet of vehicles for your employees. That's very difficult to reverse because you get in contracts with car makers. You may also get into insurance contracts. There's lots of decisions that go into not just the purchase itself, but also how you go about that purchase, the loan terms, et cetera, et cetera. Um, these resource commitments are relatively larger in magnitude. So it's not going to be, okay, we're going to buy new staplers for our employees. That would be very low magnitude strategic decision, right? But a high magnitude strategic decision would be it's going to be large in cost, typically, and it's also going to have some major impact. So it's going to change the way in which employees work, change the way the firm does business, and be a major game changer for the firm in some way. Now, resource commitments for strategic decision making are relatively longer term in outlook. So typically with the strategic decisions, they're like, say we would look at them on like a 3-year or a 5-year plan or even longer, sometimes 10-year. So you can think of companies like Tesla or Apple. They have a long-term outlook on some of their strategic decisions that they make that could be even 10, 20 years into the future. Um, these resource commitments, while they oftentimes they have to make a large investment up front, oftentimes the resource commitments are spread out over a longer time period also. So they're not, oftentimes companies don't use all of those resource commitments right up front. Oftentimes they have to purchase or invest in those resources up front, and they see the benefits of that over a longer period of time. And finally, these decisions are made with greater emphasis on competitive advantage. And in the strategy lecture that I give you, that's more of a big picture of strategy, we talk about how competitive advantage and competition is really central to strategy. So competitive advantage is really something that, from a strategic standpoint, these resources are being used for. Now, there are two other things, or three other things, sorry, that we will think about whenever we talk about strategic decision making. One is that we have trade-offs. So with trade-offs, you have to, oftentimes this is seen as, okay, which path am I going to take at a crossroads? Am I going to go this way or am I going to go another way? You can't go both. And I talked about this in my Pachakacha video that I've given to you guys. So that's one way that we could look at it. But also, whenever we think about trade-offs, this picture here at the bottom, it's really nice because we can see that, okay, if you make one decision, you have to forego another decision. So it's kind of like if you ever played on a teeter-totter as a kid, when one kid goes down, the other kid goes up. And the same way, whenever we make strategic decisions, if we put resource commitments in one basket, we have to forgo resource commitments in another basket. So all of these decisions we make involve some type of trade-off that are involved with that. The next thing is that oftentimes they're made in context with other strategic decisions. So one siloed decision does not typically happen. Typically we have multiple decisions going on at the same time, multiple strategic decisions, and one decision typically affects another decision. It has kind of like a domino effect. So whenever strategic decision making is going on, oftentimes, which is going to go into the next slide, the executives of the company have to be cognizant of how that will affect other things within the organization. It's not just, okay, if we increase our spending on advertising, that's going to have some type of an effect. Yes, while increasing spending is important, that's more of a tactical decision that mid-level managers could make, say how they want to allocate their marketing budget. But strategically, thinking about this, it affects multiple decisions within the organization. And finally, these strategic decisions are typically made at higher levels of the organization. And these are just a few of the different types of C-suite level executives. We have Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Executive Officer, and many others that are here that they make these strategic decisions. Now, this is it for what strategic decision making is. If you have any other questions about strategic decision making, please email me at kt.manus@ttu.edu. Thank you.